I'm going to record it and restream it on Facebook later on, because what I'm realizing and recognizing is that Facebook is not allowing things to function as it would, and it's holding things up. So for those of you watching us on Facebook, I want to thank you. Please go ahead, join us on YouTube, because Facebook is not very, very reliable. They're bringing the numbers down. They're doing, I don't know what it is they're doing, but whatever it is they're doing, it is having impact on our broadcast. So I'm going to try and come back on TikTok if I can, but I will see how that works. And trying to work this out as I speak to you. But I do appreciate each and every one of you. If you're watching me for the first time and you haven't subscribed to Citizen AY on YouTube, please go ahead and do so. Hit the thumbs up, give us the the like button, help us reach more people. Go and subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube, because that really is the best way to go forward. Going forward, we're gonna try and do a few more other things to make it working. So I'm gonna stop the broadcast on Facebook because I think it is slowing things up somewhat. So I'm going to stop that now. So let's stop it and let's see what happens. So hopefully that can make things more balanced and even, because I've noticed that now. So we're going to try and do that, and hopefully we can yeah, we're going to stop that now. Yeah, it is not doing the work I want it to do. So okay, so we're going to close that down. So let's close this down, and hopefully we will be able to focus fully. And of course, I'll restream it again. Yeah, that's what I thought. So this Facebook, it seems to be the problem at the minute. I don't quite know what it is, but Facebook seems to have been a problem. So if you are watching us, please go and join us. If you have been watching on Facebook, join us on YouTube, because that's the best thing to do. That is the best option that we have to be able to address the fundamental issue that is going on, because it's really been very difficult. But like I said, one of the things I want to do now is I'm just checking the broadcast as I'm going along with you. So bear with me. We are trying to check and understand what is holding things up somewhat. So now, okay. So let's, one more time, we're going to play the video of this man here, this young man.
So remember when they said Africans do not like each other, right? Yeah. This is what they actually mean in regard to what is currently happening in Sudan. On YouTube, Ethiopians wouldn't let Nigerians pass through their borders to get their ways back to Nigeria. We all know there is a crisis or war going on in Sudan right now, to the extent that even the Sudanese themselves are fleeing outside of Sudan. The Sudanese who are living in Khartoum are fleeing to their various villages. Almost everybody left Khartoum at the moment, which is the capital of Sudan, except for the international students, most of which are Africans. Some of them are women. They are left stranded in Sudan right now. All they do at the moment is to lie on the floor. Some of them are sick, some of them are injured allegedly. I have spoken with a lot of Nigerian students in Sudan. A lot of them have spoken out on social media. What they said is that one of the safest and easiest way to follow in order to leave Sudan at the moment is to get your way out from Khartoum to the Ethiopian border. And Nigerians try to follow that way with some other international students. Ethiopian immigration allowed every other nationality to pass through their country. Somali, Kenya, Djibouti, Yemen, and every other person except for Nigerians. They asked them to apply for a visa, which they did 3 days ago. Nobody is even looking into their visa application at the moment because there is a public holiday for it in Ethiopia. So they asked them to go back to Sudan while other people are passing. Even the Sudanese are passing, but they wouldn't let Nigerians pass. So they are indirectly asking them to go back and die, that we do not care about you, we only care about our neighbors. And remember at the beginning of Russia-Ukraine conflict, where all those white people wouldn't let black people pass through their borders. We came out in thousands on social media calling them racist. Ethiopia is giving us the same vibe. So we are using this medium to call on the attention of the Ethiopian government and the entire African Union to look into this case immediately. Thank you.
So that's Abis Fulani. I'm really proud of my brother here for raising that alarm. And that is what we need to be focusing on. So please, if you're watching this broadcast and you haven't subscribed to Citizen AY on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. This is a fundamental issue that we are facing in Africa, and we need to really address that collectively. This is something that we need to really be addressing. You know, so I urge you all, if you're watching, please share this broadcast. I promise to restream this on Facebook later on, but we've been having some sort of problem with the Facebook stream of late. It's not been stable, and when I do, it seems to go very, very slow. I don't know what it is with Facebook. I can't seem to stream there for long. It just doesn't seem to hold. the broadcast as it would normally do. But that is why we are increasingly leaning towards the YouTube. And but what I want us to do, please leave comments. We'd like you to help us share the broadcast, like the page. Okay. Hello, somebody's calling. I don't know who that is. Hello. Okay, let me just see. Somebody just called, I think. I'm going to try and get them back if I can. Somebody just called the number, and I was trying to get it working, but I don't know if it's let me see if it will work. We're trying to check one or two things with it. So yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know what's happened. So but what we want to do is to really, as Africans, we need to address these concerns. So now I'm going to do something briefly, quickly here, if I can, if I may. I'm going to try and call the Ethiopian embassy and then see what they say, because I think that's where we need to start. Let's go to the Ethiopian embassy in the UK here and hear what they have to say. So you'll hear it ring in a minute. Oh, okay. Shoot. Oh, sugar. Unfortunately, it's not going to let me do that just now, but we will try and sort it out. Okay, I know what's going on. That's all right. We will get there. Just give me a minute. The phone just wasn't going to allow me to do the broadcast like I wanted to do. We will try and get there via other means. No doubt. I will try and connect on another way. Let me see. So let's see if I can do. It is on. Let's see if this will connect to the TP link, and then yeah, it is connected. So I'm hoping that will work. Essentially, what we are trying to do is to really waken our people up and really begin to talk about these concerns. Africans cannot be treating fellow Africans like this. What the man said here is absolutely right, and we need to really raise the alarm urgently. Unfortunately, the phone just died on me here, and I was trying to avoid that, but unfortunately, it died on me. I'm going to try and use the other phone line if possible, if at all possible. I don't know if it will let me get in there. I may not be able to make calls directly, but we will try what we can. Let me see if I can find. Let me see. I'm going to try and get the Ethiopian embassy up and try and call it from another phone line. See if that works, because what we want to do is to really wake up our people and not allow this kind of thing to continue. It really is not acceptable at all. Let me see if it will work.
You don't have enough credit.
Okay, sorry, it's on that one. It's to do with I needed the thing to be up and running, the Wi-Fi, but it's not going to be on just yet. So I'm going to hope that this will reconnect and do its thing, and then we'll come back on air. But I wanted to just really come on here really and talk about the issue of the how we Africans are treating ourselves. It is not right. It is not acceptable that as an African person that we treat ourselves in such a terrible manner, that we do not value ourselves as Africans and we do not put our interests together collectively. We have to retrain, and that's why I'm saying we're suffering from a post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS, and we need to actually look. I'm suggesting that as Africans, we need to have to do a program by Joy. What's her again? Something Joy is her name. I've got the book somewhere. I'll bring it out. She talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and it is often intergenerational. So what that does is that the kind of trauma that we've gone through as Africans, and I'm not saying this for you to feel sorry, but you need to understand often how our makeup, what forms part of our makeup is often the kind of damage that has happened to our own direct ancestors as people. So many of us would have gone through, our ancestors would have gone through untold trauma, and that trauma passes from one generation to the next to such an extent that we now know we won't even question how we do things. We'll just think that's how it's done. Whereas all it takes is to just go and interrupt the development of one generation of people. And you will see the effects of that disruption many generations down the line. And I believe that that is what we as Africans are collectively suffering from. And I think that we as Africans must put a program to deal specifically with post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSD. We have to deal with that, because it is not only that syndrome did not only affect those who were enslaved and those who were taken away, those who were killed in those periods, but the generations of Africans, and I'm so sorry that this is not showing up on. It's a topic I'm going to really come and talk about later on. The generations of Africans after that, because you see, when you suffer a trauma in one generation, it will pass from one generation to the next, particularly if it is not addressed, if it is not collectively addressed as Africans. And that is one of the things we need to do. So this inbuilt self-hate that we are suffering from and expressing to ourselves is often because of the trauma that our ancestors have gone through collectively. And we need to really address those issues. And I want to take this opportunity to ask that as Africans, that we must stop. If we are not going to accept that what Ukraine did when they wouldn't allow Africans to go through the border, if we're not going to accept that, sorry about that, if we're not going to accept what the Ukrainians did to Africans when Africans were trying to leave and the Ukrainians were trying to leave, if we're all going to go on social media and really make a noise about that, then we should be making the noise about what is happening to Nigerians right now, because we are getting this information that the Ethiopians do not consider themselves to be black, and that is unfortunate, but they are on African soil, and whether they like it or not, they are African. If you are on African soil, this is where we would really like to call on the African Union to actually begin to do its work to make sure that our nations, African nations on the African continent, we become borderless. That means that as an African, you can go through from one continent, from one nation to the next. But don't forget, many African nations, if you go into many African nations, they often have various languages that is spoken in two different countries. And that's because the colonials who came, when they divided and carved up Africa, they often cut across cultural lines. And these are things that we don't often discuss. And this is a brilliant opportunity for us to discuss this and begin to really work out that we have been programmed to self-hate because of the religious indoctrination and like Nana Mama Adu said. She said that we've been sort of programmed to turn on ourselves, to actually harm ourselves as a people by our own actions. And that is what is on display right now. That is why I am advocating that we as Africans, in each of our cultural areas that we're in, we begin to recognize the need for post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy. Post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy. Because a lot of the issues that came about from slavery and of course now colonization, all of those issues have not been dealt with by Africans on African soil, and even across the whole world. We have all been impacted by this, and it is the only way we can deal with this issue, so that this kind of issues whereby we're hating and turning on each other doesn't come up, is when we collectively address that issue. Have in each of our communities a therapy that is targeted solely at confronting and being able to heal the wounds, because we still have an open wound in our psyche. We have an open wound. We have an open psychological wound in our psyche as Africans that has not been treated by anybody. And do not be surprised that the colonials who did what they've done to Africa, They don't want you to even address that, because in not addressing that, we are not going to be whole as people. I know people don't like me saying this. I know people will find this difficult to hear me say that we are all walking around with post-traumatic slave syndrome within each and every one of us. We are all carrying that because it has been generational. So even though our ancestors to whom this directly impacted have long gone, the trauma that they went through is coming out in one generation after the other, one generation after the other. And until we collectively, the only people that can solve this are Africans. And we have a lot of psychologists who on African continent that we need to begin to actually bring them together and begin to work out a plan in each of our societies. How psychology, because you see, if you do not have the right psychology, you cannot build a society. If you do not have the right psychology, you cannot build the right society. That is why every time you see that anything to go do with a society in Africa is always very easy to destroy. It's always very easy for it to not function, because the undiagnosed post-traumatic slave syndrome that is embedded in our psyche. This is embedded in our psyche, and we have to address it collectively. I'm so sorry this phone thing is not really I wanted to do something more. I did try to call the Ethiopian embassy earlier on in the UK, but they didn't pick up. So I'll see if this phone would really get itself back up again. Maybe it is something I will try and do live on air if I am so opportuned. But in the meantime, what I'd like you to do is subscribe to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. The issue, let me go and show you again. I'm going to play you another video where you hear the Nigerian government talking about, I'll have to give them some credit to a certain extent that at least they're looking at things now. It is not right that Ethiopians are refusing to allow Africans, their fellow Africans, to be able to, to go to the border. So let me go show you this one quickly now. Let me show you. So here, let me see if this will work.
Last 2 days.
Let's hear the Onyema.
The Nigerians.
Here we go.
First of all, of course, we have an embassy there, so that's already a good thing.
Yeah.
And our embassy, we've told them to put up a platform to, where all the Nigerians in the Sudan can,
this is from channels, by the way.
So information will be available, and to coordinate the process. Obviously, what you need in a situation like this is a place where everybody can congregate before you start moving them out. And because the airport, as you pointed out in your report there, is out of commission, the only viable way out is by
land. Yes.
And but of course, it's not totally safe. So you're going to require government to provide some security.
Please do share this broadcast. Endeavor to share it, please.
And we've been working around the clock for the last 2 days to try and get the Nigerians out. First of all, of course, we have an embassy there, so that's already a good thing. And our embassy, we've told them to put up a platform to, where all the Nigerians in the Sudan can, log on to, so information will be available, and to coordinate the process. Obviously, what you need in a situation like this is a place where everybody can congregate before you start moving them out. And because the airport, as you pointed out in your report there, is out of commission, the only viable way out is by road.
So, anyway, so that's what they've said there. Now, the thing to really bear in mind is to understand that Nigerians are stranded, and for them to not be allowed to get through a country, another African country, is simply unacceptable. And ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I've had some issues with my broadcast of late on Facebook. That's why I've had to bring that to a halt. But of course, I will try and restream this on Facebook later on. But if you're watching, as you're watching me, and if you're joining us for the first time and you've on Citizen AY, we welcome you on board. You're welcome. We greet you. Please do leave comments. Endeavor to leave comments. Suggestions, ideas. What do you think? We would like this to be a two-way discussion. Currently, the phone. I'm not able to make the phone get the phone line working. But leave comments on online. That would be of great help in trying to do what we're trying to do. In any case, which is to communicate the ongoing concerns of people. So many are stranded in a North African country following power tussle that has resulted in crisis. The development has led to calls for evacuation of nation citizens. But speaking on channels, Onyema said those stranded can't be evacuated by air. We have been given cost estimate and all details. They gave us a figure of 5,500 who are ready for evacuation. Obviously, what you need in a situation like this is a place where everybody can congregate before you start moving them out. Because the airport, as you pointed out in your report, is out of commission, the only way out is by road. But of course, it is not totally safe. So you are going to require government to provide some security and safe corridor out. Yes, of course. So he went on to further explain. I'm just trying to... that our situation is particularly challenging because the numbers are so great. Some countries like US, European countries have started evacuating, but what they've been evacuating were actually their diplomatic staff. They haven't been able to evacuate their citizens there. We can't evacuate all our diplomatic staff at the moment because they need to also coordinate the evacuation of all the students we are talking about. His comments come as a statement from the Embassy of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Khartoum, signed by Chad Affairs. H.Y. Yako advised students to make up about 80% of the stranded persons to stay indoors. So that's what I was talking about. The Nigerian embassy can only tell our students to stay indoors. The federal government said it was still dangerous to embark on a journey toward the borders of Sudan without security clearance and guarantee from the Sudanese authorities. The embassy also reassured Nigerian students that their safety and well-being were of priority concern. Yeah, that's all talk. So these are the kind of things that we are coming to talk about. And of course, when you then when you had that, now listen to what Abyss Fulani said. Listen to this.
So remember when they said Africans do not like each other, right? This is what they actually mean in regard to what is currently happening in Sudan. Ethiopians wouldn't let Nigerians pass through their borders to get their ways back to Nigeria. Mm-hmm. We all know there is a crisis or war going on in Sudan right now, to the extent that even the Sudanese themselves are fleeing outside of Sudan. Mm-hmm. The Sudanese who are living in Khartoum are fleeing to their various villages. Mm-hmm. Almost everybody left Khartoum at the moment, which is the capital of Sudan, except for the international students, most of which are Africans. Mm-hmm. Some of them are women. They are left stranded in Sudan right now. All they do at the moment is to lie on the floor. Some of them are sick, some of them are injured allegedly. I have spoken with a lot of Nigerian students in Sudan. A lot of them have spoken out on social media. What they said is that one of the safest and easiest way to follow in order to leave Sudan at the moment is to get your way out from Khartoum to the Ethiopian border. And Nigerians try to follow that way with some other international students. Ethiopian immigration allowed every other nationality to pass through their country. Somali, Kenya, Djibouti, Yemen, and every other person except for Nigerians. Mm-hmm. They asked them to apply for a visa, which they did 3 days ago.
Can you believe that?
Nobody is even looking into their visa application at the moment because there is a public holiday for it in Ethiopia. So they asked them to go back to Sudan while other people are passing.
To Sudan.
Even the Sudanese are passing, but they wouldn't let Nigerians pass. So they're indirectly asking them to go back and die, that we do not care about you, only care about our neighbors. And remember at the beginning of Russia-Ukraine conflict, where all those white people wouldn't let black people pass through their borders. We came out in thousands on social media calling them racist. Ethiopia is giving us the same vibe. So we are using this medium to call on the attention of the Ethiopian government and the entire African Union to look into this case immediately.
Thank you very much, Abyss. Abyss Fulani is his name, is on TikTok. And I thank him very much. He's the one who's brought this to our attention. And I think we need to go get on blast on this. If you are watching this and you think, oh, it doesn't matter, this is the very thing we're talking about. As Africans, we should be supporting, we should be each other's keeper. We should be our brother's keeper. We should be looking out for each other. What Ethiopia is doing by refusing to allow, by sending Nigerians back into Sudan, is putting them in harm's way. And that is wrong. And we also call on the African Union. We call on the African Union to immediately intervene, very much like Abyss said, to intervene in this matter and to resolve this situation and to ensure that they do everything they can to impress upon Ethiopia that it's one of his responsibilities as a member of African Union is to allow safe passage for citizens of other African nations through its borders. These are facts that should be evident, but clearly the Ethiopian people, the Ethiopian government are not playing they're not playing a fair game here. And those of you, if you're watching this broadcast, we're taking this opportunity to call upon you to please don't just watch, share this broadcast, because the kind of information that we're sharing here, you can see, is really, really important. Again, we're taking this medium. I'm taking the opportunity to use this platform, Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power, to urge you. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead, subscribe to Citizen AY. Hit the notification button, give us a thumbs up, and leave comments. Please, if you can do that, the more you can do that, the more this information will reach people. And again, we're advocating for Africa to take on and begin to do a process of post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy, because generations after generations after generations of Africans who have come after our ancestors that were collectively enslaved, they have not had those traumas addressed. We have not had those traumas, those slave syndrome trauma addressed within our society, either individually or collectively. And that is something we need to do. Now, one of the things, this is a clear justification for reparations by highlighting the effects of post-traumatic slave syndrome. These are justification for demanding for reparations from each and every Western country that was involved in enslaving Africa and cutting away our resources, cutting away our artifacts. These are multi-generational damage that has been done, and it is time that one of the tasks that the African Union must take on is to really look at how we can put in each of our communities, cultural communities, the post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy, using African people who are psychologists, who can help us break the chain of this syndrome that is going through our society even as we speak. And I cannot overemphasize, I wish I had that book here, but I haven't got it here. But I will try and show you the book. Let me do something quickly. Let me show you Joy the Girl, I think it's called, Post-Traumatic Slavery Syndrome. And sometimes it is better to actually have an idea of what we're talking about here. So I'm going to go here. Let me just, I'm going to go into YouTube and go to, there's a lady called Joy the Girl, I think it's called. So I'm going to put it on here. Post. I want you to see what I mean, so that you don't think I'm just talking out of a, traumatic slave syndrome. So, okay. So, here we go. Now, I want you to listen to, now. Okay, so now, this is the lady, Joy the Girl, the Groy. So, I want you to listen to it. So, let's listen to, just to get an idea of how this is impacting our society, and even in Africa. Let's have a listen. She is absolutely on point, and we need to organize it. Listen.
25% of people on the convict lease die, more than during slavery, because you don't.
This is Joy the Girl, and I wanted you just listen.
But they didn't have any protections because they have another label, do they not? And when you're going to oppress or subjugated people, what must you do? You must justify by relabeling them. But not only are they black, genetically inferior, lustful, careless, governed by caprice, but now they're criminals, which then justifies what we do. So 25% of them died under convict lease. But look at how lucrative it was. Convict leasing was so successful that by 1898, nearly 3/4 of Alabama's total state revenue came directly from this institution.
Now, please keep in mind, if you're watching as an African and you think this does not relate to you because they're talking about convict leasing. Convict leasing is the process whereby they actually made, instead of freeing Africans, they started doing this amendment, 13th amendment, that meant that if you were caught jaywalking, you had to be walking, you had to be in jail. And in jail, now you put you into convict listing, which is what she's talking about there for Africans and for African Americans. Now, for us Africans, what has happened is that because we've not addressed this post-traumatic slave syndrome within our own community, our own society, a lot of things that were clearly wrong that was being done to us, we now self-perpetuate it. So the idea, when you go to schools, let me give an example of what I mean. When you go to schools in Africa, even now, the teachers will take a whip and beat children in front of everybody in the class. It happened to me when I was growing up, and it is still happening now. There are videos of what I am saying. That is the clear evidence of post-traumatic slave syndrome. And those are the kind of things that we need to address. And because of the failure to address that, it now means that every African now, we see each other as enemies, because that is what has been programmed into us from one generation to the next. It is up to us to deal with those self-hate, deeply embedded self-hate. And one of the ways we can address it is this post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy that Joy DeGruy is actually advocating. She, by talking about it. So I'm just bringing that to attention. Let's watch out for a few minutes. Again, post-traumatic slave syndrome. So the Black Bag Speakers series. She did this all the way in 2006. Of course, we're in 2022. So there's a lot of work for us all to do. And by doing that, we are going to drastically reduce the kind of infighting that we are seeing among Africans. Because one of the things that the colonials did effectively was to make sure that even though you were brothers, in one culture, once they put the line across you, one of you will be speaking English, the other one will be speaking French. So you had no commonality. In your mind, they put in your mind that you're from different countries. That was how we were divided into small little bits, and they were able to control and still continue to control Africa till today. So I cannot overemphasize how important it is for us to begin to advocate for all or in the whole of Africa that we begin to put in place post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy. We need that in our societies urgently, because if you are not right psychologically, you cannot deal with anything around you. You cannot build a nation. A nation without the right psychology as its foundation will not be a nation for long, because it is only going to exist on the stories and the lies that's been perpetuated in their mind through indoctrination. And that is what the post-traumatic slave syndrome would go to the heart of and address. So it would remove and eliminate or drastically reduce the situation where African nations such as Ethiopia will be viewing another African as though, oh no, we're not Africans, we're not the same. And this is what has been done. The sole aim of colonization was to ensure that the African community was not only destroyed, but would take thousands of years, if we do not begin this process, for it to even get back to its greatness. This is a deeply embedded, long-lasting damage, and it is important that we as Africans recognize that. I'm going to quickly pause that. I want to call the Ethiopian embassy and see what they have to say. You will hear it. I'm going to try and call them straight away, because I do want to do this as we're talking, because sometimes it is best to just take this thing on, take the bull by the horn. Let me see what they're going to say.
Welcome to Ethiopian Embassy
Sure.
in London. ከነስልኝ ይህ ለንደን የሚገኘው የኢትዮጵያ ኤምባሲ ነው። ለአማርኛ አንድን ይጫኑ። For English, please press 2.
So let's try.
For information, please press 1. For consular services, our embassy's consular office is open Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For other services such as business, diaspora, and public diplomacy, The embassy is open between 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Please be advised that
so I'm calling the Ethiopian embassy as I speak to you now. So please do bear with me. Do share.
Our consular office is open only for half day between 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for particular services such as document collection. For detailed information, please visit our website www.
So I'm trying to call them at the Ethiopian embassy in London to try and ask a question. So please do share this broadcast as you're getting it. So we're waiting for them. We're trying to see if they will answer us. And I will also endeavor to reach the African Union as well.
Your call cannot be transferred.
Right. Okay.
Please try again later.
So you see now, I've tried. This is the second time I've tried now. Obviously, I don't know what it is, but they don't want to take the call, obviously. So I'm going to try. Let me try the African Embassy and the African Union. Let me see if I got some number for them. That I think I have a number for African Union. If I do, I will call it straight away. And I want them to address that issue. I don't know if they will pick up, but these are the kind of things we need to call out something. We don't want to just talk and sit down and just wait. Let us be that change. Let us begin as Africans to take the bull by the horns ourselves. There's a lot that we can do. I firmly believe that. This issue with what happened to us, to Nigerians now, it is quite sad. That as our fellow Africans, and I mean, I've read somewhere that the Ethiopians do not consider themselves to be Africans. If anything, they're more Arab, if you like, in their thinking. Now, I don't know. African Union. Let me see if I can see that. Let me see if I can get that back up. So, like I said, whilst I'm doing that, let's listen to Joy the Groy. Let's listen to her.
But y'all free, right? Let's move on. So then we had, oh Lord, we got it now. Separate but equal. Is it equal now, friends? Still separate, though. You know what the Negroes are? Well, we're doing gentrification in Portland, but you know, we know where the black folk are, don't we? Mm-hmm. You know where to find them, right? Mm-hmm. There's no, sign on the freeway that says next left hood. But we know when we're there, don't we?
Keep it real.
Okay. Separate, never equal. And that's contemporary, right? Now we're going to get to where am I in time? You don't have a concept of that. Where are we? Where's the time first? Where am I in time? Excellent.
Now, keep listening to her. We'll skip through it now and then, but I want you to just listen to how damaging this has been to us all. And it doesn't matter whether you're Christian or Muslim, this has impacted all of us. This has impacted all of us. Whether you're Christian or Muslim, the post-traumatic slave syndrome has impacted all of us, and we don't even know it.
He cleans up nice. J. Marion Sims, let me tell you a little bit about Jay. How many people, you know him,
So this gives you an idea of what is done. So please keep watching. This is Joy the Girl, Joy the Groy, post-traumatic slaves on post-traumatic slave syndrome.
For those young men or men in the room that we lost you there, what a vaginal speculum is, it's an instrument that was created to open up the vagina. So folks can kind of peer in. Now, J. Marion Sims is the individual credited with that creation, and he is touted as being the wealthiest physician to have ever lived. J. Marion Sims was a physician in the mid-1800s, credited with the creation of the first vaginal speculum, which he made from a pewter spoon. Sims had built a makeshift hospital in his backyard where he conducted surgical experiments on unanesthetized African slave women. Sims reasoned that slave women were able to bear great pain because their race made them more durable, and thus they were well suited for painful medical experiments.
Please do share this broadcast. It's very important.
So this is
post-traumatic slave syndrome. I'm going to come and talk about it later on. I may even share this section on its own.
He cut into black women without any anesthesia. Now let me kind of get close with you around why this becomes very important.
Listen.
J. Marion Sims becomes very important because the first question I asked was, first of all, where do all the women come from? How do you get them? And what the problem was is it would be said that these women were not fit for duty by their slave masters. And here's why they weren't fit for duty. Many of the women suffered from what was called a fistula. An obstetric fistula is the breakdown of tissue in the vaginal wall, frequently as a result of childbirth, which affects the bladder and or the rectum.
Please do share this podcast as you're watching.
The disorder causes leakage of urine and feces into the vagina, which made for a smelly and humiliating existence for the women. However, this condition did not preclude these slave women from participating in their daily work on the plantation, such as picking cotton, house cleaning, cooking, etc. So what duty were the women then unfit for? The obvious answer is that while black slave women were required to do manual labor alongside their black male counterparts, one of their other inescapable duties was to sexually serve their slave masters. Their malodorous condition made them less sexually desirable, and thus they were unfit for duty.
Listen on, please. Very important information here.
Mary and Sam, so we can do them. But what's more important about this is how we justify. Remember, in order to oppress or subjugate, you have to justify that behavior. But it wasn't only the women that suffered under his reign. Could you show the all, please? Slave women were not the only group to suffer. Black infants represent the most innocent of Sem's victims. Black infants suffered from what he termed trismus nascentium, now commonly referred to as neonatal tetanus. Tetanus originates in horse manure. The likely cause of the disease, enslaved infants, given their living condition and their proximity to animal stables.
See that?
Sims attributed the condition to the indecency and intellectual flaws of the black slaves, together with skull malformations at birth. Sims attempted to treat this malady by trying to pry the bones in the skulls of the black infants into alignment with a shoemaker's bone. I was careful to find one from the 1800s. He would stick that into the brain and the skulls of black infants at birth in an effort to realign their skulls because of the indecency of their parents. He is worshipped in this medical world, J. Marion Sims. But I was more curious about how a physician could do such a thing. And here's how you do it. You pathologize the people. Now, let me read what they said about black women, because it gets real specific, black women. Their first pathological symptom was their skin color. In a medical world that categorized life as either normal or pathological, people of the African diaspora were continually condemned to the category of pathological, their abnormal skin serving as a foil for normal white skin. Stay with me. The skin, if you see black people, the problem is the skin itself is pathological because it's actually a foil over normal white skin. This is what medical journals suggested. Now we're going to find out how they named it. Medical tradition has a long history of perceiving this skin color as a form of pathology. The favorite theory, which reappears with some frequency in the early 19th century, is that the skin color and attendant physiognomy of the black, here's the reason why y'all black, is because of congenital leprosy. This is why there's so many of us. We all have congenital leprosy. Now, we have a second symptom. The second symptom of pathology was gender. Black females were perceived to be irreligious, lustful, and immoderate. Well, that's convenient, isn't it? Let's take a look at that. We need to really take a look at this one, because I have a whole chapter on rape. Can't even get close to what that did to me. There were over, and this comes out of a social work book. In a social work book, it states that there were over 600,000 mixed-race babies born in the mid-1800s, based on the census. Now, this was during miscegenation. That means it's illegal to marry. So who was sneaking out back, and who was raping whom? We have numbers. Young girls rarely made it to their teens before they were raped. But let's put that in perspective as a social scientist. Now, I want to get into that, to the fact that we were lustful, because then you see it's their fault, isn't it? Surely I raped them, but didn't they deserve it? Now we need evidence of how we know they're lustful and immoderate and immoral. Here we go. Their protruding buttocks and genitals were offered as physical evidence of their pathology. Anybody up there with a big butt? Anybody with a big butt out there? There you have it, you slut.
So, you see, these are things that is affect.
It's incredulous, isn't it?
Everything that has happened to African Americans happened to Asians and happened to Africans in African soil. And we need to really understand how closely connected we are as people. Everything they did, even in Brazil, what happened in Brazil happened in Africa, happened in Haiti, happened in the US, happened in all the places, in Argentina, in everywhere you had black people. This is what we are saying. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. It has not been addressed. On this alone, we are justified in demanding for reparations, because those funds, we will use a large part of it to treat multi-generational syndrome, post-traumatic slave syndrome, to address it. Because if we don't address it, we are walking around with trauma. And when you're walking around with trauma, you can never live collectively as a decent life, because some things will happen in your in your family, and you won't understand that the root of this goes back to slavery and the colonization that we went through. Let's listen on.
It's hard for you to even believe it, but you see it's in books.
Please do subscribe as you're watching. Thank you.
Right. But what was so amazing, I want to get right. Let's get right up with that one, because the butt thing really threw me off. Because everybody wants that butt now, don't they? Yeah. J-Lo made it. Gave us all permission to first have the butt. And it's an African butt, don't get confused about it. And it's a butt they couldn't keep their hands off of. Now they're injecting the butt now. They're putting butts in pants. They're making underwear with a butt in it.
You see?
In addition to that, injecting the lips with collagen, locking the hair, and telling you the whole time you're ugly. Still looking for the safest tan. Isn't that amazing? And the sad thing about it is we believe we're ugly. Case in point, 2006. Oh yeah, she was cute. She had good hair. Yeah, she had good hair. And he was fine. He was light-skinned. Yeah. Look at the music video. Same girl, isn't it? We might as well just take him over and over again, Tragic Mulatto.
Yeah.
Are you following me? I have people say to me, Joy, are you going natural? Going natural?
You see that? You see, this is what we're so facing. Please do share this broadcast.
She's militant. And that's because I actually wear my hair the way it grows out of my head. Anybody white in here, everybody go, you're not going to keep it like that, are you?
You see that?
Hermit or something, aren't you? You're not going to just wear it like that, right? I can see your roots.
That is exactly what we all face. You remember in schools, these are all post-traumatic slave syndrome. You remember in schools, if you had your hair as dada, or you had it long, no, cut it short, no, keep it, no, you can't do this, you couldn't observe your hair the way you wanted. These are things, systematic, all in phonology, morphology, etymology, linguist side game. Absolutely, my brother. Please give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, as you're watching, and hit a lot of love. The more you hit the love on the screen, so that it reaches more people. Please, we urge you, hit love and like. So let's carry on. These are fundamental issues. Please keep in mind, the object of this broadcast, and I'll be talking about it, is exactly what it is. Thank you very much. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. We need to address that in our society. When you see a teacher beating kids in school, it is post-traumatic slave syndrome. When you see somebody straightening their hair with their comb, it is post-traumatic slave syndrome, because it is deeply embedded in our society, and we do it without knowing why we are doing it. We need to address the roots, the foundations of that slavery and colonization, to be able to fix ourselves.
Girl? white people. We have pathologized.
Waris Junod, my brother, may you live long. Yes, no vernacular. Even as we speak, no vernacular. We couldn't even speak our own language. So you can see the deep psychological damage. I maintain that we need this post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy. We need to design it. It has to be designed by Africans for Africans across the whole of Africa. Indeed, wherever they're in Haiti, in Cuba, in Brazil, in Mexico, in Argentina, wherever that in African soil, definitely in African soil, we need this post-traumatic slave syndrome to address the many flaws. And that is a clear ground upon which reparations must be paid. Let's carry on.
What is naturally us? And when we would want to assault or insult you, black, big lip, nappy head, stay with me.
Listen.
You see, that's called post-traumatic slave syndrome.
That's it. Exactly.
That's what that looks like.
You
and
see
then
that?
White people go, well, no wonder. Look.
You see?
You're so negative. Right? So let's move on. So then, after all that, I want to take a look at another piece, because again, when you think of someone that raped and did horrible things, you get the picture of a big gut, toothless wonder, a straw hat, and get the boys and go on out there and get them. Well, let's just move and start looking at the impact the strange fruit had. You all know what strange fruit. Billy got in trouble for that. But let's talk about the strange fruit.
Yeah, you see? That's a strange fruit. That's lynching they're talking about.
I'm not interested in reading.
This is what we suffered from.
But I want you to look at this picture, and there's only one reason why I want you to look at it. I want you to look at who's in it. This is just plain old regular folk. And the way that little girl is looking at that man, she can't be right. That's what's wrong with white people, by the way. It's right there in that picture. Because, see, no one talks about what happened to white people.
No.
That's another book. But this is specifically, I show this picture because it's unbelievable. Got the little Sunday best. They ran train excursions and let children out of school early to attend lynchings.
Can you see that? Ran trains and coaches out of school early to go and watch lynchings of black people. And this happened on African soil. Don't make Germans. There are scores in a place called, I've forgotten the country. The Germans cut off the heads of people and put them in museums. It's only recently that they've given the bodies back. This is the same thing that has happened right across us in Africa, and we need to address this.
Lynchings.
You see that?
Now, let's show the other slide, because I want to read this one. It's a rather gruesome one. I want to get you prepared. But I want to read from this one so you can understand what they did at the lynchings. If you want to know the
Namibia. Thank you very much, Timajek. Yes, Namibia.
Yes,
that's it.
Online with my website, joylouis.com, and it'll give you some suggested readings. The name of the book that I would suggest are two. One is called 100 Years of Lynching. They're all newspaper accounts. That's by Ginsburg. 100 Years of Lynching. No pictures. This one is a famous picture that you will find in a variety of places, but one of them is called Without Sanctuary, recently published, which is a pictorial. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to read from the newspaper account. Yeah. Before the torch was applied, the Negro was deprived of his ears, fingers, and genital parts of his body. He pleaded pitifully for his life while the mutilation was going on, but stood the ordeal of fire with surprising fortitude. Before the body was cool, it was cut to pieces, the bones were crushed into small bits, and even the tree upon which the wretch met his fate was torn up and disposed of as souvenirs. The Negro's heart was cut into several pieces, as was also his liver. Those unable to obtain the ghastly relics direct paid their more fortunate possessors extravagant sums for them. Small pieces of bone went for 25 cents, and a bit of the liver crisply cooked sold for 10 cents. As soon as the Negro was seen to be dead, there was a tremendous struggle among the crowd to secure the souvenirs. Knives were quickly produced, and soon the body was dismembered.
Wow.
Now I want you to look at who's in the picture. They're crowding to be in it, in suits.
You see?
So whatever memory or thoughts we had about who these folks were, they were just plain common folk.
Please, I'm just pausing here for a second, though. I don't want any of us watching this. The object of when we are talking about post-traumatic slave syndrome is not to feel sorry. Is to address. The work we are doing here now is to begin. Good evening. Good evening. Yes, thank you very much. The work we are doing here is to get our people to understand the level of the level of work we need to do to correct our psyche. You see, without the right psyche, when your psyche is not right, that's why they are able to put on us anything they want. They put religion in front of you, you will take it. They put Christianity or Islam in front of you, will take it, because your psyche is not right. Because you're not aligned into who you are as a people. And the only people that can fix that is ourselves. And that is why Africans, that is why we are fighting each other. Because we have not addressed the fundamental issue of the post-traumatic slave syndrome. It happened to our ancestors. And our ancestors passed it down from their genes to each and every generation till our current generation. And unless we take the collective work to deal with that as a community, Africa will not grow. They know what they're doing. They psychologically destroyed us. I'm not saying that for pity. I'm saying we need to understand the level of work we need to do. To build, if our psychology is destroyed, we cannot build a viable society. Plain and simple. Let's listen on.
But Joy, surely, this has no relevance today. Between 1882 and 1967, 200 bills, and Senator Ava Gorderly wouldn't know about this one, 200 bills were presented before Congress to outlaw lynching. Additionally, 7 presidents urged Congress to end the practice.
It's shocking.
Each and every time these efforts were rejected by the Congress, and lynchings continued unabated and unpunished. It was not until 2005 that the U.S. Senate offered an apology for what it termed domestic terrorism against mostly black people. And even then, folks wouldn't sign on it. So did the trauma continue?
Yes.
Boy, we're an amazing people. We're an amazing people. But we don't know who we are. And you cannot heal what you don't understand. We can't heal it if we won't look at it. So how does it manifest itself? Very quickly, let me go through some of my research, because I'm going to give you some examples of it. There's a chart, and I did work specifically on African-American male youth violence. I didn't want to look at violence, by the way. What I really wanted to look at was something I term in the book vacant esteem, one of the symptoms of post-traumatic slave syndrome. Vacant esteem should not be somehow confused with low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is when you can't do as many chin-ups as maybe your sister or your brother. I'm not talking about that. And I don't think esteem should be measured in terms of low and high, because there are people with perfectly high self-esteem that are assholes. And you have to go to meetings with them, don't you? But they have high self-esteem. They ain't right, though. So I think esteem should be measured in terms of accurate esteem. It's accurate esteem. Do you have an assessment of yourself that is appropriate? Not high or low, accurate, and healthy. So these are things I looked at. I don't want to look at this. I told you, I didn't want to look at violence. Why? Because my committee told me that vacant esteem wasn't a social problem. Clearly, that's not a social problem. A social problem, let me define it. Remember my graduate work. A social problem is a social problem, can be defined as a social problem if a significant number of people believe that it is a social problem, or significant persons believe it is a social problem. And we didn't qualify for either of those, not black people. But let me tell you why I wanted to look at self-esteem. I wanted to look at self-esteem because my first work was with children.
Listen.
I saw things happening with black children that bothered me, disturbed me. Aside from the good hair, bad hair, and all the other ugly, negative black epithets that we would throw at one another that I heard in contemporary world around me, I was concerned about what I saw happening to the hearts and minds of little black children. And one of the things that I started to notice happened directly after I had come from South Africa in 1994.
Listen.
I went to South Africa on the heels of the inauguration of Nelson Mandela. And it was a tough time in the country. And it was an incredible time for me because it was in a fact for me, in a way, a rebirth a pilgrimage, a point of normalcy that I never knew, because I never knew how to feel normal as a black person in America. This is an article recently published called, it says, "My black skin makes my white coat vanish." This is a doctor who was standing in the lobby, and her clients would go, "Where's the doctor?" Right? We're invisible. And I grew up being invisible, discounted on a daily basis. So when I went to Africa, it was the first time in my life it felt normal being black.
See?
And so I cried a lot.
See?
I cried so much, in fact, the women that I was traveling with got a little through with me. Now, there's a reason why they got a little through with me. The reason they got a little through with me is because, see, in South Africa, in this southern region, actually I was in 4 countries, when you cry, you know, here they go, get that girl a tissue. Find a tissue, dry it up. In Africa, they sing. And they just start singing. 4-part harmony and breaking it off, right? And the whole room would just be singing until I stopped crying. And this was profound. The Queen of Lesotho had her royal choir come and sing to this group of 9 African-American women who were professionals traveling throughout the southern region. And this was really good and emotional, except there's a little catch. After they finished singing, they asked us to offer a few songs. And contrary to popular belief, we can't all sing. And so the women in my group were, you know, we did learn a few tunes, so we were even on radio after a while. But my sister, who was traveling with me, we were on our way to Lesotho, actually, and they got up and they met without me, the women. And so when I woke up, my sister said, "Joy, you know we're going to Lesotho today." I said, "Yeah, I know." She goes, "And Joy, we're not singing in Lesotho." So whatever you need to do, Joy, to get your little stuff together, we need you to do that because we're not singing in Lesotho. So I said, I'm good. I got it, holding it down. So we all go to Lesotho, and when they have this meeting, the meeting is actually larger than this room, and people are coming from all over. We got people coming from villages, people coming from the government. Everybody is coming to greet these 9 African-American women. So we're sitting on the stage, and of course things have to be translated. So the guy who's translating, he is actually a descendant of slaves that were enslaved by the Dutch in a place called Umfravakt in South Africa. And Umfravakt means the unexpected in Afrikaans. They were left to die after apartheid ended. But this man had gone back to learn the tribal language. So each one of us would get up and he'd translate. So I got up, I was the first one, all the women were looking at me glaring like, you gotta keep it together. So I got up there, I was good. I said, "My name is Joy de Grulier, and I'm traveling with, you know, and we're trying to build a corridor of relationship with our African sisters." And I sat on down, I thought I did good. My sister, like, thumbs up, everything's good. Translator gets up, starts translating. Then he starts going on and on and on and on and on. And then people start chanting. It's just, you know, so my sister looked at me and said, so I leaned over, I said, what'd you say? He goes, "I told him what you said." I said, "I didn't say all that." He said, "Oh, what had happened was," no, he said, well, when I got to the part where you said you were African American, some of the people from remote villages got confused because they thought all Americans were white. So then I had to explain to them that you were the descendants of the ones that had been stolen away. And they were saying to you, "Welcome home."
Whoa.
So, you know, everybody was singing.
Whoa.
Because I was crying. I was telling
Of course you'd be crying. So you see,
my sister.
Guys, can you see what is happening there? If you can lock into what is being shown here, this is exactly what we're suffering from. And now, this is not to say I'm blaming those who did this on us. I'm saying we have to understand the condition, the psychological state that we are in. Because it is in understanding our psychological state, will we be able to build a viable nation, a Yoruba nation, a Biafra, a Middle Belt, even the Fulanis. We are all suffering from the same thing. The undiagnosed, untreated, post-traumatic slave syndrome. And this is really important. You see, when you just hear say they sang to her and they say "Welcome home," something starts registering in our soul. Okay, I'm being healed a little bit. And that is what we need to do. We have not identified or taking steps in our communities in Africa to deal with this post-traumatic slave syndrome. That is why somebody in Sudan and in Ethiopia are behaving the way they're doing. And thanks to this man for exposing it. So that is the connection. What is being expressed by Ethiopia is post-traumatic slave syndrome. And that is what we need to really address. Unless we go to the foundation, we cannot build a better Africa. We need to start at the foundation. And the foundation is, of course, where? The mind. The mind of Africans. Our minds has been polluted. And unless we build it back as whole for the coming generation, it will remain so for another century. We need to start that work. So anyway, let me just put that there so you understand as we're going ahead.
Looks at me. So everybody's on their feet singing. I'm tore up, sup, in the corner. So this black woman who was in the corner of the room walks all the way towards me, grabs me by the hand and said, "Did you think we would forget you? I am from Lesotho, and Lesotho is my home. If I leave Lesotho, Lesotho is still my home. If I leave Lesotho for 15 years, Lesotho is still my home. We mourned Malcolm and Martin with you. We are so very proud.
You see that?
You are African 300 years
from
home.
You see?
We just wondered when you were coming back." And then I realized how much of me had been taken from me.
You see? We need to address
so when
this.
I came home, I was a little depressed. To Portland, to the hood. All right. I was living on 9th, which is no longer the hood. But I was living on 9th, and folks were calling to see if I was coming out. They was worried. People on the trip called, "What's wrong with her? She ain't out." So finally, one day I had to come out because my daughter ran in. She goes, "Mom, there's a little boy outside. He said he gonna beat up Nadim, that's her brother, and he gonna pee on the car too." Which, as you know, could happen in the hood. So I had to go outside. So I go outside to find a crew of young black boys standing. Ain't nobody over 10. My son's trying to hold his own, but he's scared. I walk right over to the little ringleader, and I said, "Has my son done something that I need to know about?" "Yeah, I want to know if he got some kind of eyeball problem." Now, I speak Ebonics and that kind of women. "What did you say?" "I want to know if he got some kind of eyeball problem. What he's staring at." I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, you want to beat my son up because he was looking at you? Now, I want you to contrast that, because in Africa, when they talk to you, when they were, this is what black folks do. Everyone. Don't we do that? White people ask you, "God, you have so many friends." But that's an acknowledgement. We walk down the street in the grocery and try not to acknowledge somebody. "What, you too good?" You don't do that, because it's so important in African culture. Or in Africa, it's even a step further. In all the languages, it translates to meaning, "I see you." Yes. And isn't that what we're doing when we do this?
Yes.
Now, we don't have a language
I do
anymore,
it.
but we kept that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm looking at this boy telling me that he gonna beat my son into the ground because he was looking at him. I said, he could have been looking at you because he thought maybe you want to play a little basketball one-on-one. We got the hoop out here. He could have been looking at you because he could have maybe played a little video game. We got a little video game inside. He could have been looking at you because you know the park right down the street.
You know the point that she made just now? I just want to touch on that. Till this day, if I go out anywhere, I was somewhere recently where there's a lot of white people. Every time I saw a black face, an African face, I found myself going like this. It's like I acknowledge you, because the space that we're in is not full of black faces, and that's because we know that is what we need to feel in that environment, and we're acknowledging it, and that is so powerful. What she's saying here, again, these are all things that many of us haven't really connected to, and we need to really address that. What happened? Again, I maintain what happened with the Ethiopians telling Africans, Nigerians, so-called, I'm a Yoruba man, telling fellow Africans, "Oh, go back into the war zone to get killed." That is deep self-hate, the roots of which are undoubtedly post-traumatic slave syndrome. Let's listen on.
On 9th and Fremont, maybe y'all can almost kick it, right? So the little kids are looking at me like, whoa. I got a little therapeutic on them. So, finally, I give them my spiel about how we have to keep ourselves safe in the community and how we have to protect one another and stand together. Mm-hmm. And then I remembered Africa, and Africa said, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And Africa said, what you looking at? What? Well, let me put that in perspective for you, because that happens, doesn't it? Let me put this in perspective as it relates to this.
Exactly.
This comes out of the article I wrote.
Listen to, very, this is a great woman, and I would encourage you to watch her. Joy DeGroy is her name.
On social work research and practice. And
DeGroy Leary.
On my site and download it as well. So, an African American adolescent respect, the scale that I wrote. But I want to read this particular excerpt from it so you can put in perspective in contemporary society what I mean about that, what you're looking at. According to Anderson, respect is an essential part of street rules that are strictly enforced and regulated. Simply maintaining eye contact for too long may be viewed as a lack of respect and affront that can escalate into a confrontation. In a similar vein, a snide remark that might otherwise be viewed as trivial may lead to an honor contest. Boy, I wish I had more time to talk to you about that. Where no party backs down until someone is injured. This is taken from a book by Regine Persois. You can also find that in the book and on the website. This is a quote. On my way back from school, I saw a young brother on a crowded N train eating sunflower seeds. Between his legs laid a mound of wet, disgusting sunflower shells that he kept enlarging by spitting on the floor. Though visibly frustrated and disgusted by his behavior, no one would dare challenge his position. An older white man motioned to him to stop spitting the seeds on the floor. In response, he spat the seeds with much more animation than before, while effortlessly trying to stare fear into the old man. I made eye contact with him. And he said, what? Believe me, in the world of powerlessness, this is enough for a shootout. He leered at me, then said, I thought so. And I responded with my generation's favorite confrontation closer, whatever. Now we were both sneering, staring, flexing, profiling, and posturing at each other, refusing to yield the power we thought we had, creating two more powerless brothers in a confrontation over bullshit. Two intellectual amputees looking for the upper hand while mentally handcuffed.
I want us to...
That's today.
You see, what she talked about there, we've been so conditioned, and that is why we need this post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy to deal with this issue, that we focus on the emptiness. Nígbà kan tí ó bá fẹ́ fi nǹkan pamọ́ sí àwọn èèyàn dúdú fi sínú ìwé kan. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o, if you want to hide information from black people, put it in a book. You're right. You are so right. Why is she not my brother? These are things that we need to do. What she said there. It is so important that we understand that because they've so reduced us, we start trying to see I'm better than you. I'm better than you. And the fact is we need each other. Àwọn Negroes wọ̀nyí kò béèrè fún orílẹ̀-èdè kàkàgbé wa wọ́n kàkà bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n ń gbìyànjú láti ra padà lórí ọkọ̀ ẹrú Malcolm X. Yes. So true, my brother. Waris Dinodu, thank you so much for that. So it is important to recognize what you're saying there. Within people who are oppressing us, we would focus our anger towards each other. The boy said, "What? I thought so," and he was like, "Whatever," and we were maintaining that stance instead of saying, "I see you," because there is less of us in number among them, and the more I looked at and I studied this post, I read the book. I'll bring the book, and we're going to talk about the book. If I'm so opportune to be able to speak to Joy DeGroy Leary and maybe to talk to her and maybe find a way to bring her onto a topic or discussion with herself and others, believe you me, I will do it. Because before we fix anything, the reason why we fall for religion is because this psyche has been destroyed. The reason because why many of us are so into Christianity or Islam is because our psyche has been destroyed. And until we honestly, seriously address that, we cannot move forward. We cannot move forward. Let's listen on.
That goes on. So I wanted to understand, what is a relationship with that contemporary behavior? Mm-hmm. And why did that little boy look at my son and feel so threatened mm-hmm. by him looking at him? Mm-hmm. What must he have thought my son was seeing? Mm-hmm. Because based on what we know about Erikson's model of development, what we know about Piaget, what we understand about human development, is that I attain to my self-concept based upon the appraisal of significant others in my life. Mm-hmm. So I am not who I think I am, mm-hmm. and I am not who you think I am. I am who I think that you think I am. So what did he think my son believed about him? What did he see peering back at him? He saw peering back what he hated in himself. Mm-hmm. He was 10 years old. And I said, what has happened to this little boy that he cannot withstand a gaze? That he so hates the reflection in the mirror that he would destroy my son to destroy the image.
Can you see?
Post-traumatic
slave syndrome. Please listen to what she said there. And I urge you, if you want to do anything, this is more important than money. This information that you're getting here is more important than any wealth you care to put on the table. Because if you do not fix the psychology of the people, they will make the same mistakes and thinking they're doing great. Because every time we look at our reflection, we are oppressing our own reflection, not knowing that by oppressing our own reflection, Yoruba, yes, so I am who I am, Yoruba, yes. So we need to do a lot of work within our community. Again, I emphasize, when I'm talking about post-traumatic slave syndrome, I'm not talking about it from a position of pity. Do not misunderstand me. And I'm saying it, the kind of work we need to do to our psychology, a lot of things that are hidden from us is what has destroyed us. And we need to invest. That reparations will go. We will have to make sure that reparations in every African community in the entire world, in Brazil, in Africa, in Haiti, in Cuba, in Argentina, and Venezuela. There are black places that they've hidden from us, that have gone through this. Yes, toko ni o, just reason beni o, omo Yoruba ni mi. So everything I'm saying here is to begin for us to, firstly, we need to heal ourselves. And we need to, and perhaps that's a good point to actually raise at this point, the post-traumatic slave syndrome thing, it has to be taught to us in our own language so that we can understand. This has to be something that will be taught in our language. So, láti tún ọpọlọ ṣe lórí nǹkan bó ṣe bá ọpọlọ wa jẹ́ pẹ̀lú bó ṣe kó wa sóko ẹrú, our solid day, we talk with this has to be done in our own languages so that it can really have a meaningful impact. And in fact, when we do this post-traumatic slave syndrome, treat it in our own languages, it means that we are able to connect and reach the unborn child, because that means that everybody will not have to learn a foreign language. This is something that this is why I'm saying, as Africans, this is where we need to begin. If we're going to build Africa, you see, the mind is where the power is. If you take control of the mind, your body can be as strong as it likes. But the mind is where they will do the damage. So you can be strong on the outside, but if that mind, they just put something in front of you, that is why these religions are so damaging. Because we've lost the essence of who we are. That is what post-traumatic slave syndrome has done to us as a group of people. And we have to address it. It's not up to those people who did it to address it. We must address it ourselves. We must do it. Now, let's play on.
That's why I endeavored to look, and I didn't want to look at violence. I wanted to look at the internalized violence.
You see?
That wasn't a social problem.
Internalized violence. This is what we're dealing with in our communities. But many of us, somebody will suddenly come and start beating people up, start hacking. That is because in their generation they experienced that, and there was no opportunity to address that, to take it out of their psyche, so that it doesn't become part of your family. Let's listen on.
So then I looked at young men that hurt each other. So first on the left-hand side, you have stress variables. The first two variables are what we call baseline variables, violence witnessing and violence victimization. On the right-hand side, you have the dependent variable. In other words, I'm trying to predict this, and that is use of violence. I'm trying to see what the other variables have to do with the use of violence. So now those two baseline variables we already know produce violence. When people witness violence or experience being hurt, they are more likely to be violent. Fundamental basis baseline. The variable at the end is called daily urban habits. Now this was written by a black man, this scale. Sometimes, how many people have heard of a stress inventory? Basically, they say if you move, you get some points. You get divorced, the dog dies, anything, you get points. And we should have black on there, huh? Because being black creates a stressor, does it not? Now, I want you to know, being black and living in this skin, we've normalized the stress. Haven't we? It happens so often, and they wonder why you act up when you get to the office. Because by the time you get to the office, you will have been assaulted so many times before you got there. You know, the person that somehow you're standing in front of them, but you're invisible to. By the time you get to work, the person that's sitting right next to you that doesn't say hello to you. You know, because that happens every time. You're invisible at work. All black people are invisible in white environments for a number of reasons. I don't have time to talk about that. But one of them is, in African culture, this is what we always do. And you know what? If I see you this morning, I see you later on, I'm going to do that again. Because it's something we do. And you have people where greeting is perfunctory, so they'll look at you and keep going. Standing right next to you. Or they'll go, excuse me, can you get me those papers? What black people going to say? Hello? Good morning? Good afternoon? Right? Oh, well, hi. Could you get me those papers? Right? Because we have a very different experience living here in America. But one of the things that I understand is not respecting a person, and the idea of the stressors associated with being black, putting electrodes on a black man when a police car drives up behind him. Let's measure that stress. Two books, I have to name these because I'm not going to have time to talk about them. You must get, after you get mine. One is called Breaking Rank. Norm Stamper, 34-year police veteran, chief of police for Seattle, retired, chief of police for San Diego, retired, wrote a book called Breaking Rank, has a chapter entitled Why White Cops Kill Black Men. Whole chapter, he told on everybody. And when he broke rank, he took folks down. He took them down. I don't know what happened to this man, but he started telling the truth. There is a slide you have to show. And that is the one where it says, oh, you got it up there. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. He said, I've heard some police officers refer to prostitute slayings or to the slayings of blacks as misdemeanor murders, employing an unofficial code for this, NHI, no human involved. San Diego cops confessed to a myriad other acts of discriminating, including additional dehumanizing references to black on a radio call just at 1113 nigger, 1113 being a code for an injured animal, followed by...
Can you see how we've been dehumanized? And many of us will watch American programs and say those words without understanding the etymology, the real reasons. You notice it, non-human interaction, or you know, this has... And we will take it on board also in America and everything else. But there is a subtle, distinct racism embedded in that language. Like you said, let's listen again. Listen to what you said there, please. Listen to what you said. Listen to what you said there.
What I understand is not respecting a person, and the idea of the stressors associated with being black, putting electrodes on a black man when a police car drives up behind him. Let's measure that stress. Two books, I have to name these because I'm not going to have time to talk about them. You must get, after you get mine. One is called Breaking Rank. Norm Stamper, 34-year police veteran, chief of police for Seattle, retired, chief of police for San Diego, retired, wrote a book called Breaking Rank, has a chapter entitled Why White Cops Kill Black Men.
Listen.
Whole chapter. He told on everybody.
Newsflash. Norm Stamper is a white man. He's a white man, and he actually, for the first time, addressed the issue of racism in the police. I know about this guy because I read about him. I've done a lot of research, And a lot of it, you will hear me drop things. I do a lot of research all the time. Whether or not the pain is hurting me, I'm doing research because the work we need to do is to observe what's around us, and when it's at key points, to deliver that information so that we can begin to use it to fix our communities. This man, Nom Stamper, listen to what he said now. I'll try and get the book about him.
And when he broke rank, he took folks down. He took them down. I don't know what happened to this man, but he started telling the truth. There is a slide you have to show.
Yeah, okay, it's on there, but
and
you can't see it.
And that is the one where it says, oh, you got it up there. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. He said, I've heard some police officers refer to prostitute slayings or to the slayings of blacks as misdemeanor murders, employing an unofficial code for this, NHI, no human involved.
You see, they don't consider black people as, as humans. No human involved. No human involved. Whereas it's black people that this is happening to. So can you see the level of racism that we are even psychologically accepting? Particularly when we go, oh yes, it's America, it's going to be good. We take everything. But it's a code for them. It's really important we understand that we are, as Africans, suffering from not only Africans, Americans, African-Americans, and Africans, Haitians, Cubans, Venezuelans, Argentinians, Brazilians, we are suffering. Black people all over the world, Aboriginals, we are suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. And we need to really address that collectively. It's not a job for one group of people, some of us to do. It's a collective effort.
San Diego cops confessed to a myriad other acts of discriminating, including additional dehumanizing references to black on a radio call just at 1113 nigger. 1113 being a code for an injured animal.
You see, just an 1113 nigger, you see, an injured animal. So they see us as animal. And that is what, and you see, what is sickening about this? You might even hear those references in the movies that you watch. You will hear references. Just another, just 1311. But they know that 1311 means just another injured nigger. But they say 1311, they just say, and we will even say it on 1311. We will say it because it's a part of the movie. Can you see what post-traumatic slave syndrome is doing to us? Can you see? Because we're not recognizing those key things and how they're using it. And we will be sort of proud about it, not knowing the real meaning. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Please share this broadcast. Very, very, very important. Leave comments. I appreciate your comments, each and every one of you. I'm endeavoring to answer each and every one of you. Please give us hit the love button. Hit the love button as you're watching and help us reach more people.
What is that? A descriptor: dog, cat, skunk. It was a pernicious form of discriminating injected with a large dose of misogyny that led to the labeling of the lone female officer in my academy class as a split tail. Speculated it had something to do with a woman's vagina. This man goes on to give statistics on how many police officers in every police department across the United States are predators, and saying that if you have a mother, a sister, a wife, a daughter, you should be afraid for them, because they become police officers to prey on women. He told me. Now I gotta tell you, the man lives in a cabin on a mountain somewhere in the San Juan. So he knew it was gonna happen. This is a situation where, again, I'm not gonna have time to cover that, but let me move on and move back to the violence scale. Very good book, very important. I think black folks should keep it on the dash of the car. Because they may say we're paranoid, but folks are following us according to the data there. Another book you need to read, All God's Children. Fox Butterfield wrote the book. Fox Butterfield talked about violence, and here you find out who pushed whom first. Perfect representation of post-traumatic slave syndrome if you want to see it in the life of a gentleman. That actually was the reason why we started trying youth as adults. His this particular situation here, let me read this one, because I think this is an amazing one. The last one I read. According to Butterfield, what emerged was not just a portrait of the Boskets, the gentleman Willie Bosket, the one who's now serving consecutive life terms. Youth tried as adult because of Willie Bosket, but a new account of the origin and growth of violence in the United States. Violence is not, as many people today.
I'm just been trying to read the Ethiopian embassy again. I've been trying to read the embassy. I'll try again. I will keep trying. And in fact, what I will do is, and you can do this as well. Call the Ethiopian embassy, and try and get engaged in your country. Call them. Ask them a question about this. Let us all do that. In Ethiopian embassy in your country, and ask why they are preventing Nigerians from having. Thank you. Absolutely, what is you not do? Never allow anyone call you any other name outside your true nationality, i.e. Yoruba, full stop. Thank you. Absolutely. Because it does something to the psychology when you allow that. You are so right, my brother.
Let's a recent problem or a peculiarly urban vein. Rather, it grew out of a proud culture that flourished in the antebellum rural South, a tradition shaped by whites long before it was adopted and recast by some blacks in reaction to their plight. The records also show that the vast majority of people put on trial for violent crimes in antebellum South Carolina were whites. The slaves were believed to be, or thought to be, a gentle people. Butterfield describes two forms of violence among the lower and upper classes: knockdown, drag out, where individuals often had their nose, eyes, or ears ripped from their bodies, and dueling, shooting and killing as a means for gentlemen to settle disputes. Now I want to put this in perspective in terms of my research that looked at respect. Are you following me? What was modeled is honor and manhood. How does a 16-year-old black male in America get respect? Remember who modeled it. A duel is just a dressed up drive-by. But what I understand about that how are you a man as a black man in America? If you don't have the material means to assert dominance or control over your resources, you have learned helplessness. Research tells us that too. Or you have hyper-masculinity where I've got to assert my manhood somewhere and somehow. So I'll strike fear in you. Survival, adaptation. Adaptation. How do you learn to survive and adapt in a hostile environment? That's what black people have done all this time.
Yep.
And sometimes we heal crooked.
Yep. Yeah.
Sometimes we did. But let me tell you this one thing. I don't know, where am I in time? Okay, let me just move, and I'll give you time to give me questions. But I want to give you.
I'm going to go through this process, this series again. Where this is a part 2 I'm watching. I might even go back to part 1 because part 2 is powerful. That's why I wanted to show it.
Is that all my hypotheses are correct? The more urban hassles, more violence, more victimization, more violence, more witnessing, more violence. Racial socialization, middle variable, written by Howard Stevenson, out of Penn State, black man. He said, this is a resiliency factor, so pay attention to this. He suggested racial socialization as an important way of measuring how black people cope and adapt. Well, what is racial socialization? You help black children, black men, women know that you're walking out on a racially charged battlefield, but you give them armor. I'm going to tell you, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to trust what my high school counselor told me, which was that I wasn't college material. Don't trust that. But you know what? We got your back. You got a God. You got mama, daddy, big mama, big daddy. We here for you. And guess what? You're not a descendant of slaves after all. You're a descendant of captured free men and women. And you know what? It's going to be all right, because joy comes in the morning. And we found out that the way you socialize a black child, you have less violence. I look right here in Portland. 200 African-American males, 100 incarcerated, 100 were not. Some of them were in the Rites of Passage program. People know Kevin Fuller. Yeah, I used that as a control group, and I used 100 of them that were incarcerated, and found out that those who were racially socialized were less likely to be violent. But more important was what I discovered about respect. And what I discovered about respect is that when you disrespect black males, and what do they do in prison? They try to break them. You're going to create a prisoner. You're going to create a criminal. You're going to create a sociopath. Because if you disrespect him, you're going to have more violence. And guess what? I put all the variables, multiple regression, stepwise regression analysis. So I wanted to look at all the variables and how they behaved and performed. Highest, greatest predictors of violence. What were the most significant predictors of violence among African American male youth? All 200 of them. After victimization and witnessing fell out, respect. Now, more importantly, what does respect mean? What does respect mean to a black male? I ask people, what does respect mean? I asked white men. White men told me it means earned regard. When I asked black men, they said it's a sense of worth and value. Much deeper, isn't it? Guess what respect means? Doesn't mean either of those, by the way. Comes from the Latin. Respect. Look again. That's what respect means. Look at me again.
Look again.
Don't look the first time. Look again. That's what it means to respect. And that's all these young men were saying, please look at me again. And I want you to put that in context. I see you.
Yeah.
Look again. That's what my research taught me. That these young men wanted you to look at them again. But we can't look past our socialization in America. So we need to socialize them. These are the destructive behaviors. Let's look at the corrective behaviors. I'll just put it up there and we'll talk about them. Because we did have, not pathology, we have resiliency built up. These are the things we've used through the years, and I've broken them down from Ma'afa all the way to current status, the things. And I want to note for you that during Katrina, after we all know little was done, they employed the very same methods to wrap you in so that you would go to sleep, to subjugate and oppress. What do you have to do to subjugate or oppress any group of people? You must justify the behavior by what? Relabeling them, and after all, they're just looters and rapists. Then they wrap you in that and go black. More died after that. I've been in the Ninth Ward. My family's from Louisiana. But they aren't even telling you the number that died after Katrina. They don't even tell you about it because they've already convinced you they're bad people, even here in Portland. In Dallas, everywhere. We've relabeled them so everybody can wrap themselves in that. So we do have positive behaviors. We do understand once we look at some of these behaviors around how we look at each other, how our attitudes, we can in fact turn them around, but you can't change what you don't know. The book is full of those. I certainly didn't have enough time in this day to share it.
Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. It's a book that I have, and I recommend it to every black person. What we will need to do as Africans is, furthermore, like I said, we need that book in our languages, because that is the fastest way we will reach our people on ground. Because we don't want a process whereby they start teaching about post-traumatic slave syndrome in English. That means it's another barrier for our people to climb over, to understand how to treat themselves. We need that language. We need this book to be translated into Yoruba language, Igbo, all African languages. And I'm going to try and find a way. I need to get in touch with this lady because she's really hit on something that's very important here. And I'm so glad that by talking through this program this evening now, we were able to see just how important this post-traumatic slave syndrome therapy is to us. Because there are so many unprocessed trauma. We are walking around in all our communities with unprocessed trauma. And that is actually, we are mistaking those traumas as being part of our psyche. It isn't. We need to strip those traumas away from our psyche, from our communities. And I cannot overemphasize how important this work is. This is something that I'm hoping that we will continue to do. Of course, it goes alongside what I'm still saying at this point. For Yoruba people, Biafrans, Middle Belt, we must participate in our governance, holding the government to account. The section 142C, 142C. Participation by the people shall be mandated according to the Constitution of Nigeria. You need to participate in your governance. In just this month, March, the all local government areas received 171.25 billion naira, right? That money is not being given to the local government. That is why you don't have good roads, you don't have water, you don't have light, you don't have roads, you don't have bridges. Because that money is being sat on by the State House of Assembly and the governors, plus the National Assembly get their own cut. Because the National Assembly, guess what? They have to pass a law. 2/3 of the National Assembly must pass a law in each state for the local government funds to be released. Get this right. Listen, I will show you. Let me show you. I'll talk about it. I'll come another time. I'll talk about it because I need to wrap up now. The National Assembly have to pass a law in each of the states, and that means you must participate at a local level, demanding from your local government to get the funds that you need to have the roads, the water, and the light, you must put pressure on your councillor, your chairman, all of them. And it is by standing together, demanding that right. You have to participate in your governance. 171.25 billion naira. That is about $300 million in just 1 month, just this March. So when they tell you there's no money in the system, they're lying. That is where we must start. I'm urging you, you need to participate in your governance, because what? 14.2a says, sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers. These are things within that constitution. I don't agree with it. I don't agree. Kingsley Unoga Ozorigbo, thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. I don't agree with the constitution. We need to bring it down. But the powers that we have within that constitution, we can use it right now. And that's where we need to start. I'm giving you the reason why I'm so insistent about this. If we are going to even before we even achieve Yoruba Nation, and I'm a believer in Yoruba Nation, we have to first get our people to know how to begin to participate and demand their rights. That is why we need to use those two powerful statements I made, sections of the Constitution. 14.2a, sovereignty belongs to the people, from the people from whom the government, through the Constitution, derives all its powers and authority. 14.2c, the people should participate in a governance in accordance with the Constitution. That's 14.2c. These are things that our people must really hold on to. And the reason I state that emphatically is this. We in Yoruba Nation, since March 2020, I have been in this struggle before that, well before, but March 2020 was when we actually said we're going for Yoruba Nation. April 2020 was when we started doing Oduduwa TV Radio. That's when I officially started talking, and we sang the Yoruba national anthem for the first time. There was when I started. 3 years. In 3 years, we have not raised $1 billion naira. Collectively, for the struggle, we have not raised $1 billion naira. But every month, they're getting 100 billion, 171 billion, 150 billion, 180 billion, sometimes 200 billion naira a month. And we have not in 3 years raised that. So we have to be realistic. If the people we are trying to help, if we do not point them to where the funds are and encourage them and show them how to demand for that, then we're not serious about them getting true freedom. Because after all, the freedom they want is for them to be able to decide their own future by holding their governance to account. So it's really important. Let me just quickly zoom. I'll come back and play this later. I'm going to pause that for a second. Let me quickly go. I want to go and show you something here, because I want you to really follow me on this. It's very important. I'm going to quickly show you something, because I just wanted to, it's important. This is what I want you to see. The top of that page. Sorry about that. I don't know what that is. I don't want that there. So let me just, I don't know why it's doing that. It shouldn't be doing that. I don't want that. Okay, fine. I'll just, give me a second. I'm going to just do something. I don't want it on screen, because it's not what I want to do at all. So I want you to just see, so that you know that what I'm saying is about this current year. In March, I want you to see those figures, and you need to participate in your governance. No ifs, no buts. You must. So let me show you what I mean now. Here we are. Listen to this now. Listen.
0.62 billion naira as March revenue
Listen.
to the federal, state and local government. This disbursement shows a decrease of 8.04 billion naira, and that's when you compare it to February's allocation of 722.67 billion naira. But the committee says the federal government received 276.14 billion naira, the state received 232.129 billion naira, while the local government councils got 171.25 billion naira.
Did you hear that? The local government received 171.25 billion naira. No, what is, my brother? That's why I'm not so sure contributing money in diaspora is a losing battle. It affects our detrimental in the long run. Where it makes up for political stealing, accountability is key. Political stealing, accountability is key. Exactly. So, contributing money in diaspora is a losing battle. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. So this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying we shouldn't contribute. Don't get me wrong. No. But what I'm saying is that what is the impact of our contribution? Is it making the people more confident to demand for their rights? If it isn't, then we are not doing the right thing. And right now, I cannot honestly say that it is helping them, because the funds I'm showing you now on the screen, 171.25 billion, that is money. That is money that is rightfully belongs to local government. And like I said, every local government has to pass a law, and every local government must go and demand collectively. All of the community must go to the local government. We want you to we need you to get the funds meant for local government. And they go to the local government, go to the State House of Assembly, and the State House of Assembly, the two of them now go. They are mandated to now go to the National Assembly. And the National Assembly has to, 2/3 of them have to vote to support the release of the funds to each of the states. Yeah. More bad behavior. Thank you very much, T Majek. Yes, I understood that. Yes, I understood what you meant. I understood. Yes, you're absolutely right, T Majek. Yes, it does, and that is but yeah, it does. So true. Yeah, so true. So I just wanted to just make sure. So yeah, you're absolutely right. What we are doing is we are creating a dependency culture, and dependency on people that cannot meet those needs. Like I said, in 3 years for Yoruba Nation, we have not raised 1 billion naira. We have not raised 1 billion naira. But in just 1 month, all of the local government areas in all of the states, they are receiving 171.25 billion, at least over 100 million naira a month. So we need to rapidly reappraise our thinking. And for Yoruba Nation, no doubt about that. But to get to Yoruba Nation, this is the task before us. We need to get our people to get used to participating in the governance. I want to just show you, those of you who might have seen me before, let me see if I can show you this bit. Well, how do I do it now? Okay. I'm urging you, everybody watching me, I'm sure you know this. You know this is how we roll on Citizen AY and Oduduwa TV Radio. We do this in English and in Yoruba. I urge you, please, like I said, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. Section 42C. The participation, by the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. These are the things that our people must know. Please don't forget to hit the love button whilst you're watching. Keep hitting the love button, and encourage you, leave comments. I appreciate each and every one of you for the comments that you've been leaving, and I try to answer as many of you as possible. Facebook are not reliable at the minute. I noticed that when I do Facebook with my YouTube, it just slows everything down, and I want us, more and more of us, to join us on YouTube. Help us subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Yeah. We do generate efforts so many progressive within Yoruba Nation movement. Then how poor yes, they've sunk. Exactly. When you hear the way people use corruption card to belittle the genuine effort of so many progressives within Yoruba Nation movement, then you imagine how poor our values have sunk. It has sunk. Because people now just believe it's just raise money. Money is not the solution. It isn't. What I'm reading to you on the screen is where we need to go. Let me just quickly do this. So what I'm showing you on the screen is what we need. Above all else, this is what we need the most. We need this to be something that we will be using in our, to further people, encourage them. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. So sovereignty is a community by community power. Sovereignty is a community by community power that can only be used as a community, not by an individual. Sovereignty as a community. So once you understand that, you need to apply that as a collective. Then you apply participation. So once you now, as a community, come together, you now say, right, the funds, the 171 billion naira, which I just showed you a moment ago. Let me just come out of that one. This 171 billion naira, you now use that constitution to now go for it. Back in Agboki, yes, Agboki's pocket, Fulani customs, terrorist ransom, politician. Thank you so much. What did you not do? Thank you. That is the reality that they don't want us to mention. And that is why I'm not, all this fight. many of them now, they've realized many of the so-called Yoruba agitators, they now resort to abusing each other to bring more crowd towards them. And they've forgotten the main struggle. The main struggle should be what? Yoruba nation. But they're now fighting each other. So this is where that's why I'm bringing this to our attention, and I'm hoping that, we should really wake our people up, all your foreign exchange end up back in books pocket, Fulani, terrorism, some church ties. It's exactly all of these things. And that is the reality that we need to address collectively. So I am for Yoruba nation, but it is a long-term view. It is not likely that we will achieve Yoruba in the medium to short term. Let us be very, very real. The president-elect, whether or not you agree with it or not, the president-elect right now is Tinubu, and it is not going to change. It is not going to change. And for as long as it is Tinubu, that means that the strength that we had, the collective demand as Yoruba people to go for Yoruba nation, the plank has been pulled away from us, because they will say, who is your leader? As soon as you say it's Tinubu or Yoruba man, they say, so what are you going for? What is Yoruba nation then? But your man is the leader. So that central plank of the lack of power has been pulled from us. They are playing a game. But now we need to go and play an even better game to dismantle that constitution, because when the people start participating in the governance, they will see the flaws in that constitution that you and I have seen for a long time, and they themselves will demand for the dismantlement of the constitution, because the more people know, and that is why I try and translate that constitution into Yoruba. I'm working on it, but it does take some time. So please do not relent. I am really grateful for those of you that have taken the time to join the broadcast this evening. Those of you on Facebook, I will try and restream it on Facebook later on. And I will restream this broadcast also later on YouTube. I'm going to restream it later on, because I want to try and make sure that we talk about this. And I'm going to do a part 1 and part 2 and part 3 of this post-traumatic slave syndrome. In fact, I will make it a topic on its own. But the reason why I had to add it to bring it to today's topic was because many of our actions, we do not a lot of times that we do things in Africa, we don't understand what is driving, what are the drivers behind our actions. We don't process that, and it is time for us to process it. Everything that's been done by those who are in Ethiopia now is because of the post-traumatic slave syndrome. The belief that you are something else that you're not, It's a real challenge. Thank you. It has been a real challenge. But many people are unwilling to confront that. It has been I will not pariwoju. Thank you. I will not belong pariwoju. Thank you. And that is why I'm not interested in shouting. What I want is a long-lasting benefit for our community. But if we do not start with, there's 2 things we need to do. Number 1, show them how to demand for their rights. That's number 1. Right now, within the Constitution. Number 2, this post-traumatic slave syndrome, it is a big task, and we need to use that and ally that to reparations. We must ally that with reparations. I'm going to try and see if I can do let me know if you're interested in joining me on a discussion, on an open discussion via Zoom, where we're going to talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome and the need for the therapy to confront that. Let me know if you are interested in that, because I'll be bringing people together to actually talk about this at length. We will do a particular program where we discuss this at length and show programs. I'm hoping, I don't know if it's possible, I'll see if I can bring Joy Larry to bring her on to tell us about this, and maybe bring other people on, because to be honest, if we do not deal with our psyche, we're not going anywhere. I can put everything I have on it. Without dealing with our psychology and repairing this damage, without dealing with it. Thank you very much, Waris Jinojo. I so appreciate you. I so appreciate your the comments and the love that you're putting on the page. Continue to give us all that. Share this broadcast. We need our people to start thinking differently. What has been done to us? Our psyche has been damaged. And now, many of us are realizing that. Let us be brave, bold and brave enough to take the step to fix it, because nobody will fix it for us. It's not coming on. It's not about coming onto on the social media and going, Yoruba Nation now, Yoruba Nation now. how are you going to achieve your Yoruba nation when the people who you are trying to bring on board, they don't even know how to demand for their rights? So we need a systematic plan, a plan that be put in place. So I will be putting something up where, break Nigeria up to save lives. I agree with you, Just Reason, but it is not going to happen in the immediate future. It's not going to happen in the immediate future. It will not happen. But what we need to do is right now, the person who is there, the president-elect is Tinubu. Whether you take it or leave it, that is who is the president. And as you all know, the Nigerian politics, once a person has been named, it's very much like the American politics. Remember when George Bush against Al Gore? Al Gore won the elections, but who was the president? Was it not George Bush? Al Gore won the elections. He won the public electoral vote. He had more electoral votes. But who did they give it to? George Bush. Clinton won the elections. But who did they give it to? Trump. Electoral votes. So what I'm saying, I'm not saying it is right. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying the reality. So, and if we model ourselves, and our so-called democracy is modeled on American democracy. So you can see that's already precedence right there. So, but I'm saying, Just Reason, believe me, I want to break Nigeria up. But to be honest, it's not going to break up anytime soon. And let me tell you something. Let me just say something. You will notice now that the actions of the bandits was very, very rampant pre the elections. It was very rampant, and it was close. It was a close call. We could have lost our land, but with Tinubu back there now, those things will suddenly change. And that is where we need to be aware of now. That the fact that Tinubu is in has now pulled back. We haven't got this, if it happens, it's up to how determined by people are. Yoruba self-determination has nothing to do with whoever is in. Just Reason, I agree with you. Those of us, myself, for example, Just Reason, please don't take offense. I am with you. I am for Yoruba Nation 100%. But I'm looking at the reality on ground right now. If we said if the people cannot even ask for they don't know how to demand for their for the funds, for the local government funds right now, and how to collectively go and demand for it. Because once they can express that, believe me, they are ready for Yoruba Nation. Once they can go collectively to every state assembly and demand for their local government funds to be released and track the money and make sure that money is being used within the community for what it's meant for, then our people are ready for Yoruba Nation. But if they cannot even do that, and I'm showing you the amount on the screen there, if they cannot do that now, then they're not ready. Because what you will do is the people, no. Thank you. But I'm on the same page. But I'm just being very realistic about how I do things. We have to be very realistic, and I believe in being honest. No, don't. It's important for my brother. We are equals on this. Please do not see me as someone above or anything. For me, it's important that you have a right to mention what you mentioned, and it's really important that we talk about it. I'm so sorry the phone line is not on, and it's a shame. I have to go and do something in the next 5-10 minutes. If not, I would bring you on and we could talk about it as well. But suffice to say, what I'm trying to say here is that we need to understand that in the middle to long term, Yoruba Nation is not going to happen like immediately. Of course, I want it. I want it tomorrow. I want it yesterday, but it's not, because whether we like it or not, they have, for the next 4 years, we will have a National Assembly based on the fraudulent elections. It's already there. And they're going to have a Senate, a president, a Senate president, and all of that stuff will always be part of Yoruba self-defense. No doubt. It's all about mindset we're dealing with. Thank you. Absolutely. It's all about the mindset. What did you not do? So my brother Just Reason, please do not take offense, I do not take offense at all. We are in this struggle. The fact that you are on here and talking about this openly shows your commitment to the struggle. No doubt. And I know we've been on this struggle together. We've been on this struggle for a long time. So I don't have a doubt about your commitment at all. And what we will do is we will get there. But we need our people to be awake now, because we cannot tell our people that they should depend on money less than 1 billion naira to achieve what they already can do in their own community by collectively taking action right there. We need to encourage that. So please, I'm advocating for people to know about 14.2a and 14.2c. Sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom the government, through this constitution, derives all these powers and authority. So 14.2c, participation in the government in the governance shall be mandated in accordance with the constitution. You know, those are the things that we need. We need our people to be empowered, and then of course the post-traumatic slave syndrome. Those books, the post-traumatic slave syndrome, I'm going to endeavor to find a way to see if Joy DeGruy can begin to have those books in African languages. Because if we can have it in African languages, that means that we bypass any attempts by others around the world to try and to thwart us. Once it's in your language, they cannot stop you. And it is important. In fact, I will insist that the PTSD must be done in African languages. Translate it, and that can create jobs. There's so many opportunities from this kind of discussion alone. So I want to take the time to thank you all for joining me in this in this discussion. I'm probably going to be bringing it wrap it up here. I wanted to try and do something with this, but I'm not so sure if it's. Will you let me do it? Yeah. Hello. Oh, okay. No, I better not. So I don't know if it will let me. I was going to try and do something, but it's not going to let me do it. So I better leave it before it breaks the system. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me. You've been watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. As you all know, there's been a song in the background called "How Long." How long gonna get it suffer? That's been going on for a long time. It's a song which I have. You know. Thank you so much. So I hope many of you would please share this broadcast. Please, I encourage you. The kind of information that we share here, not many people are thinking about it, and it is important that we don't follow the crowd. We need to think about what is going to be most beneficial for our people over the medium to long term, and the steps we must take for them to encourage them to take those steps themselves. You see, if you give a man a fish for one day, he will come back the next day and the next day and the next day. But if you teach a man how to fish, he will feed himself and his family and his coming generations, and he will thank you forever. He will thank you forever. That's what we are trying to achieve on the broadcast here. And the solution, we want our people to believe that they possess the solution to the problem that we collectively face. So when we encourage them to take collective action, then we can collectively achieve the same common benefit, the common goal of getting ultimately to Yoruba Nation. Because the Yoruba Nation, we need our languages. We need to be able to express ourselves in language. But the language is where the power is. Once you speak your language on your soil, if you go to French land, if you don't speak French, you cannot do any business. That is the ultimate goal. We're not there yet, but that's where we're going. But for now, we need to take what we can. We take the quick wins. The quick wins are encouraging our people to understand that they have the power to demand for their allocations to be used in the areas that they choose, because they have the right to participate in the governance. They have the right to hold the governors to account. We have to show them those key steps. So I want to thank you all very much. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Why did you not do, my brother? I thank you. Just Reason, my brother, I thank you so very much. Yes. Agbosa at best. so now the thing is, we will continue to enlighten our people. Team Ajek, I greet you as well. Kingsley Unoga Ezirigbo, I thank you as well. I think you said you are all the way from Morocco. I'm so grateful. What's happening in Morocco? I heard that the president, is it Morocco or Tunisia? One of them has been very derogatory about black people, and we are going to confront that. The steps we are taking will do that. We complete when language is perfect. George Orwell, the revolution will complete when language is perfect. Yes, Ede Yoruba Sheikh Pataki towards our liberation. Benio. So in closing, I want to thank you all so very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been a minute. I'll try and come back again, and we will do this again. But please, let's continue to encourage our people. We need to focus on those two things right now. We need our Tunisia, Team Ajek. Yes, it's Tunisia. Yes, it's Tunisia. I thought so. Yes. So Tunisia, I mean, they have been very racist, you know. Yes. Thank you. Yes, in the first 6 months. That's what we are all waiting for. That is exactly the stance we must take. The fact is, he's the man now. If within 6 months we don't see something, we start shouting immediately. We don't even wait. we put him on blast. We put him on blast, and that's what we need to do. So that's the reality of what we face. So in closing, thank you all so very much. It's been a pleasure. Please do leave comments, and I appreciate your so many comments that you've made this evening. It is very, very invaluable. It helps point me in the right direction if we're doing the right things. And thank you for participating. Each and every one of you that have participated tonight, I truly appreciate your comments. You're very, very valuable. Why did you not do my brother T Majek, Just Reason, my brother Kingsley Unoga Ozigbo, and let me see if I can find somebody else on there. I think somebody else was on, but I didn't see them. If I don't mention your name, it's not because I don't want to. I might have just missed it, but I'm really grateful. And I'm so grateful for the time that you spent with me on this broadcast. For now, what's left for me to say is please don't forget, go ahead and subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube. Help us grow this platform. This particular broadcast is of immense importance. It talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome, and it's a therapy that we need to address. We need a therapy to address the post-traumatic slave syndrome. And I put on there the video that we showed was from Joy DeGroy, which is the author of the book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. When I come the next time, I'll bring the book and we'll touch on one or two things. And we'll go over part 1 of that discussion at my next broadcast. But of course, our focus still remains encouraging our people to hold their governance to account, demand for the local government allocation to come into the community to fix their infrastructures. So thank you so very much. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I hope you found this beneficial. Please do share. I'll be back later on. Thank you so very much. I greet each and every one of you. And please don't forget, leave comments, continue to share it. Let it reach as many people as possible. Help us grow this platform because there's a lot more work that needs to be done. We need to do a lot of work in terms of the psychology of our people because our psychology has been damaged. That is why that post-traumatic slave syndrome thing is so important to address. And of course, allied to the Constitution, the fraudulent Constitution, the powers that we can use to get what we need. That's where we're going. Thank you so very much. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back with you later on. Thank you and bye. Bye for now. I greet you all. I greet each and every one of you. Thank you so very much. Please do subscribe and share, leave comments, and of course, hit notification button. So when I come on live next time, you will see me. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye. Bye for now. Bye.